Hi there, I am Lisa. I'm rolling up my sleeves as I plan to get a bit messy today. I have been inspired by a canvas. I'm wanting to create a new gallery wall above my dining table, and I want it to be inspired by a US road trip that we took last year. And I've been thinking about it now for a year, and I've kind of had some ideas. I know from previous gallery walls that I've made, they don't just come instantly. They do take quite a few months. One in particular has taken a couple of years to really come together to the stage where it can actually all be put together. So I've kind of known what I've wanted, but it was just those ideas really forming in my head so that I can actually think, yeah, this is what I want to do. Now, we went for a coffee in Next on Thursday night, and there was a canvas in Next that I really liked with lots of triangles, and it really made me think, actually, yeah, that's what I want to do. It made me think of the mountains as we were driving through Virginia and Tennessee. So that has inspired this canvas I'm about to make. So I thought I'd make it on video to show you, showing you what I've got. I've got a ruler here and a canvas. I do like the deep canvases the best. I picked this up as a set of 2 in Waterstones, funnily enough. It was at Christmas time and I just saw it on their sale table, and it was £5 for the 2. It's a 30 by 30 centimetres, so it's not huge, but I have got a second one. So they're going to be kind of the same theme, but slightly different, if that makes sense, but to go alongside one another. So, but I'm making them as 2 completely separate canvases, so I'm not making them together. So that is what I'm starting with. I've got these papers from my March Cocoa Daisy kit. The colours are perfect. I have trimmed off and used them a little bit in my scrapbooking projects, but I've got enough here to use. I will also be using Mod Podge and some texture paste and some other bits and pieces as I go along, but these are the main things. Now, to start off, I want to move the canvas out the way. I need some triangles. I am going to just using the ruler. I want them to be roughly the same. I love this teal colour. My sitting room is very much teals, turquoise and yellows and lots of white. I love white walls and I love pops of colour everywhere. I like that clean look, but with a bit of quirkiness to it. Let's do the same here. The white walls, wooden floors, and lots of accented colours is my kind of look. So I do feel really excited about this, and it's been playing on my mind, but it's something that I don't like just jumping into. I like to feel ready to go on to create, if that makes sense. I think sometimes you can create something and it just happens and it's fantastic. But I wanted to get this right, so like I said, I haven't jumped into it. So I get my papers all cut up. I love this yellow, it's such a happy colour. Not quite sure how much I need at the moment, but it's something I can always come back to. So I'm going to use my trimmer and trim these down. I've got my papers trimmed, and I'm now going to cut them into triangles and lay them out. I've got some pencil marks showing, but I'm not fussed, to be honest with you. I now am just going to cut myself a whole pile of triangles, so that's going to keep me busy for the next couple of minutes. I've got all my triangles cut up. I am going to add a little bit of a tealy background. I've just nabbed the base, or the lid I should say, of a tin, and I'm going to pour in some paint here. The last of this, which I could probably do with using up. I think how much you can get out of there when you think it's all used up. This is my favourite, I think, this spearmint. I love these Kaiser colours. Plaster that in. Don't need that one. And I've just got some real cheap gesso from the Works. So let's pop that in as well. Give it a bit of a mix. And let's just plaster it on. I'm going to be covering it with paper, and we'll be painting over the top of that as well, so it's just literally a bit of a base. That's all I'm wanting right now. I'm using an old credit card that I've cut in half. I have got palette knives as well, but I always resort back to old credit cards, gift cards. I just find them really easy to hold, and they just apply the paint so nicely. It's personal preference, whatever you find easier. That. I love the texture that comes through. I'm not going to worry too much about the sides for now. I will be working on these a bit later. But while I'm doing it, I am just going to go over just to give them a bit of colour too. And the fourth side of the canvas. There we go. Cover up that, and the painting is done. This can now be left to dry, or actually I was thinking about sticking the paper on, but no, I think I'm going to dry it first and then stick on my paper triangles. Just add here, actually, I always work on this old piece of cardboard here. I've had it for years, and it's really handy because now it means that I can actually carry it to where my heat gun is, and also now I've just got paint on myself anyway, but it's easy to carry around if it's a smaller canvas that you're working on. It's easy to carry around, otherwise you're going to get paint everywhere. I've just dried off the canvas. It's still a bit sticky though. You can see where I've touched it there to check, but I'm not too worried about that because most of this is going to be covered up anyway. I am going to start piling on the Mod Podge. This acts as an adhesive. It just seals it really nicely. So I'm going to do one row at a time. Just pop that on there. I kind of started laying them out when I was practicing, when I was cutting them, and I do kind of need the triangles for the look I'm wanting to create. I kind of need the triangles to be more or less the same size, so I am going to need to kind of snip them around a bit. These ones have come out slightly larger, so we'll just see how it goes at the moment. I'm going to start popping them on for now. I've done half the canvas. I decided to bring in some more paper here, another yellow from the Cocoa Daisy kit, and I'm just doing one strip at a time, plastering on the Mod Podge and adding the triangles. It's very therapeutic and lots of fun, and I've been watching YouTube videos in the background whilst I'm doing it. The life of Lisa. Right, I'm going to keep these, I think, going. I might do a couple more at the end. Let's have more of this yellow, just kind of almost puzzling them together as I go. All my triangles are in place, and I am going to just seal them with the Mod Podge. It dries clear, so you don't have to worry too much. But I just want it to go over the top. I like the feeling that the Mod Podge gives when it's dry. It really does seal everything nicely, but this will also ensure that everything is stuck firmly in place. The paint is coming off slightly in places where it wasn't completely dry, and it is going over the paper, so be aware if you don't want that to happen on your projects. Make sure it's properly stuck in place. I'm going to be adding extra paint and other bits and pieces over the top though, so for this particular canvas it's absolutely fine. It's not something that worries me. So that all seems to be nicely covered, and it's back to the heat gun to dry that all off nicely now. The Mod Podge is almost dry, still a bit tacky in a few places. I'm going to be using this Ranger texture paste now, and I'm just going to be plastering it over just a little bit. No particular design or technique. I just want to add one. I like the white. I like the color white. I think it lifts it slightly, but I also want to add just that tiny bit of texture. I'm not adding it on very thick, but it also fills in the gaps between the triangles. It's almost like I'm grouting. It feels a bit like that. Like I said, I like the colour. I like then also how you can move it around and you can have it thicker in places, and you get to see the colour of the triangles through more. Now I am going to be adding some stamped words at the bottom here, so I'm not going to add too much in that area because I want to make sure that the stamping goes on nice and even. So I'm going to be careful how I do that. Let's do a little bit at the bottom. It's quite a nice feeling doing this. And then obviously that's going to dry and you're left with that really nice texture then. I'll give you a bit of a close-up in a sec. So I'm going to leave that area there and I'm going to give this a dry. Can you see the pretty textures? So that's the canvas so far. I now need to start touching it up and I need a little bit of the darker paint. I'm going to be adding some of the sea breeze and some of this one, which is called turquoise. So I'm just going to add this to the tin that I've already got going, and a little bit of the turquoise. Need a little bit of a contrast, not too much of that. And I am going to be using my brush this time. Got water on it as well. I'm going to mix the two colours together with the water and brush it over the top there. And I'm going to let it run down. Can you see that? Just letting that run down. So it's actually finding its way through the lines of the triangles. I'll do that again. And add some more water there at the top. I'm going to clean off the brush a little bit to add the more water there. And I'm going to keep doing this just to, one, it's cleaning off the triangles a little bit so the pattern's showing through nicely so they're not completely blue, but it's also giving me more drip lines as I'm doing that as well. What I didn't want is that dark strip all the way across the top and for it to look quite different to the rest. Whereas now, as you can see, that's cleaned off nicely and it's also really highlighting where I've used the moulding paste. So I'm really pleased with that. I might just add a little bit more, just in a few more places. Again, I don't want that to be too much darker than the others. There we go. Right, I have to be really careful because I've got quite a lot of drips there. Let's mop those up a bit. Otherwise it's going to get really messy. Now while I've got a wet wipe in my hand, let's grab another one. I'm going to start working on the sides of the canvas while it's wet. I'm dipping it back into the darker paint here with the wet wipe. It's just a normal baby wipe, and I'm going to go down the outside. This is how I'm going to work the outsides with the wet wipe and using the two different colours so that they blend together. Dab it, you can wipe it, but I want there to be, I don't want it to be one solid colour. Okay, we don't want any white, but I like the way that blended, so we've got the two colours there. Let's go on to the next side. Let's do the same again. I like the wet wipe because it's not dry. It really does blend well. It moves the paint as well and everything just soaks in really nicely. I found this out a few years ago when making canvases and it was just by mistake. I think I'd made a mistake and I was trying to blend the paint in a little bit and then I realised actually it's a really nice way to apply the paint. There we go. And the last one, just finish that here. Okay, let's move it so that we're the right way up. And using the wet wipe, I'm going to do the same. I need a little bit more of this turquoise. I quite like this colour actually. I think that's going to be a nice addition to this canvas. A tiny amount, I don't want too much on there. Let's bring it down around the outside. And the nice thing with this, if you don't like that there, you feel it's too much or too stripy, you can just grab another one and wipe it off there. So these wet wipes are really handy. Across the top there, I kind of want those streaks to go through. There we go, that's what I wanted. And it really kind of catches on the rough moulding paste as well, just by gently brushing it over. There we go, let's blend that in just a bit more. And I am going to go and dry that off. I might actually do, saying that, a bit more around the sides. I do like that darker turquoise colour. Do the corners a bit. There we go. I'm now wanting to use my letters. I've used these on a project before. The Heidi Swapp foam alphabets stamps. They're huge and I bought them years ago and I haven't been able to find them again since to link up, but they're really, really handy to use. I'm gone to get my black paint and it's really dried up, so let's see how well this works. I'm going to do road trip, starting with the bottom word first, purely so that I can make sure it fits on properly. So I'm just going to plaster the black paint. I really hope this works okay. This paint is so sticky and nasty. I very, very rarely use black paint. So just happen to have this in the cupboard. But I don't want it to be perfect. I don't want it to be really bold. Let's give it a practice. I think I might be able to just get away with that. Let's see, it's like using tar. It's horrible. This is making so much mess. I've got it all the way up the brush. Right, let's plaster this on, give it a press and see how it goes. There's a bit of give in the canvas, so really press it on well. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I've spelt it out next to me to make sure, saying that I've just painted over it. I want to make sure that I am doing it correct, although it's a very easy spelling. Sometimes when you're concentrating and you're not fully concentrating on like the spelling and that, you're just more concentrating on the paint, it's easy to make a mistake. The next one is easy, that's an I. I'm going to do a mixture of uppercase and lowercase, and let's press that in and fingers crossed again. Perfect, so far so good. Let's do a R. Should I do small or large? And let's press that on, line it up again. Make sure it's pressed down in all areas while lifting up. Excellent. And the final one. Make sure the spacing's good. And fingers crossed. Wish me luck. Let's lift that one up. Excellent. I like that. I like how they're the large with the smaller. So that's good. We now need to do road. Okay, I get nervous each time I put this down. Right, so we've got the A going on next. Next to the D. Sometimes when something isn't quite perfect, it is actually quite nice, and it does end up looking a little better. So let's space this one out and press down. Excellent. That now says road trip. I'm going to leave that to dry, and I'm going to go and wash all these up. I've got a regular black journal pen, and I am just going to go around the outside of each triangle really roughly. You need to make sure that everything's nice and dry to be able to do this, as not only will it not work properly, it will ruin your pen. So I've left the canvas for a while to dry, so it's nicely dry now, and I am just going to take some of this leftover paint here and run it over in a few places. I quite like using the white kind of highlight, and this is obviously going to take a little while then to dry as well, and this canvas is then done. Really pleased with how this has turned out. I think it's going to look very nice on my wall. It's been really fun and easy to do as well. It's one of those that you kind of lose yourself in. I think I am going to stop there. That's my finished layer. I've got messy fingers now. Fantastic texture. I'm really pleased with that. I was going to write over some of the triangles, but I think I'm going to leave it. I really like that. I don't want to overdo it too much. So I will have to now start planning the next one, the one to go with it. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Obviously you can use any scrap papers, any paints. It's a really good way to play and just have fun. And the best thing about this kind of thing, if you don't like it, you just paint over it and start again. All right, I hope you have fun, and I will see you soon. Thank you. Bye.